My dear brothers and sisters, too many hearts are shackled by the soft chains of opinion. We twist and turn ourselves into shapes that do not fit our souls, all to win the nod of a stranger or the approval of the crowd. But I tell you this, the worth of your being is not measured by the applause of others. It is measured by the courage with which you stand tall in your own truth. Every day, the world will whisper its judgments into your ear, some soft as silk, others sharp as stone. But if you make your spirit your compass, you will never lose your way. People will talk whether you rise or whether you fall. They will find fault in your silence and in your song. So why not sing? Why not stand tall and let your voice ring clear, even when the world turns away? The greatest freedom you will ever know is the freedom from needing to be understood. When you release the hunger for approval, you make room for peace. You begin to move differently, your steps more certain, your back straighter, your eyes unafraid. You start to live not as a performer before an audience, but as a soul fulfilling its divine assignment. Child, the world does not owe you acceptance, and you do not owe the world your disguise. The sun does not ask permission to shine. The river does not seek applause for its flow. You too were born to be, not to please. You were crafted by the same hands that shaped the stars, and their work needs no validation. Do not be fooled into thinking that caring less means loving less. You can care deeply for people without letting their opinions define your destiny. Love them, yes, but love yourself enough to stand apart when their vision for you grows small. There is strength in a heart that beats to its own rhythm, even when that rhythm is misunderstood. Learn to walk in your truth like it's holy ground. Speak your mind even when your voice trembles. Dress your spirit in confidence. When you do, the world will have no choice but to adjust its gaze. The moment you stop asking, "What will they think?" you begin to ask, "What do I believe?" And that, my dear, is where wisdom lives. My dear brothers and sisters, too many hearts are shackled by the soft chains of opinion. From the time we are children, we are taught to behave in ways that make others comfortable, to speak words that win approval, and to wear masks that hide our truth. We twist and bend ourselves into shapes that do not fit our souls, all to earn a smile, a nod, a word of acceptance. Yet, in doing so, we forget who we are. The worth of your being is not written in the eyes of others. It is carved deep within your own spirit. The applause of the crowd may feel sweet for a moment, but the music fades quickly, and you are left alone with the question, who am I when no one is watching? Every day, the world will whisper its judgments into your ear. Some will come from friends who mean well, others from strangers who know nothing of your path. Their opinions can sound like gospel when you do not yet trust your own voice. But if you make your spirit your compass, you will find your way through the noise. People will talk whether you rise or whether you fall. They will find fault in your silence, and they will criticize your song. So why not sing anyway? Why not let your spirit speak, clear and strong, even when the world turns its back? To live for the approval of others is to die a little each day, shrinking yourself to fit their comfort, dimming your light so that theirs may shine brighter. The greatest freedom you will ever know is the freedom that comes from no longer needing to be understood. When you release the hunger for validation, you make space for peace to live inside you. The moment you stop chasing the acceptance of others, your spirit begins to stretch its wings. You walk taller, your steps become steady, and your voice grows firm with conviction. You are no longer a performer seeking applause, but a soul walking faithfully in its divine truth. There is dignity in being misunderstood because it means you have dared to be authentic in a world that rewards imitation. The sun does not ask permission to rise, nor does the river wait for applause to keep flowing. You, too, were created to shine and move with purpose. You were crafted by the same hands that hung the stars in the sky, and their work requires no validation. Caring less about what others think does not mean closing your heart to love. It means loving yourself enough to stand firm when others doubt you. It means speaking your truth even when your voice shakes. It means walking your path even when it leads you away from the crowd. When you stop asking, "What will they think?" you begin to ask, "What do I believe?" That question, asked with courage, leads you home to yourself. Every day, the world finds its way into your thoughts, whispering what you should do, who you should be, and how you should live. It dresses its opinions in the garments of advice, and sometimes even love, but beneath it all lies the same message: be what we want you to be. Those whispers can sound convincing, especially when they come from people you respect or admire. But if you listen too closely, you begin to forget the rhythm of your own heartbeat. The truth is, people will always talk. They will talk when you stand still and when you move forward. They will talk when you rise too high and when you fall too low. They will talk about what they do not understand, and they will talk about what they secretly wish they had the courage to do themselves. So why should you give your peace to their chatter? Why silence your own spirit just to blend in with voices that will never be satisfied? The world will always find something to say. Too loud, too quiet, too bold, too afraid. If you keep bending to please the shifting winds of opinion, you will break under their weight. But when you stand still in your truth, you become like a tree rooted in purpose. The storms may rage, but your soul remains unshaken. There is a beauty in walking your path even when no one walks beside you. There is a strength in saying, "I will not live for your applause." The crowd's praise is a fickle thing. It comes and goes like the tide. One moment they lift you up, and the next they turn away. You cannot build your peace upon such unstable ground. The applause of the world may echo in your ears, but it will never fill the silence of your heart. Only the voice within can do that. When you begin to trust yourself, you no longer fear being misunderstood. You realize that the opinions of others cannot define the truth of your journey. They cannot see the miles you've walked, the pain you've carried, the strength it took to stand again. So their judgment loses its power. You learn that approval is not the same as respect, and attention is not the same as love. True confidence grows not from how loudly the world praises you, but from how quietly you believe in yourself. You were not born to fit neatly into another's expectations. You were born to live boldly, to dream freely, to express the fullness of who you are. And that can never happen while you are busy watching who's watching you. People will talk whether you whisper or roar, so you might as well roar. You might as well live your truth, sing your song, and let the world adjust to your sound. Because peace does not come from their approval, it comes from your freedom. The greatest freedom you will ever know is the freedom that comes when you stop needing to be understood. Too many souls spend their lives explaining, defending, and justifying who they are, as if their worth depends on whether others can comprehend their spirit. But there will always be those who cannot see your light, because it is too bright for their eyes. There will always be those who misunderstand your kindness as weakness, your silence as surrender, your strength as pride. You must understand that being misunderstood is not a punishment. It is often a sign that you are walking a higher path, one not yet paved by the approval of others. When you release the hunger for validation, a quiet peace begins to bloom within you. You no longer chase the echo of applause because you have discovered the steady rhythm of your own heartbeat. You begin to find comfort in your own company, in your thoughts, your beliefs, and your vision. This peace does not come suddenly. It grows slowly, like dawn spreading across the horizon. But once it arrives, it brings a stillness no outside voice can shake. You begin to notice that the less you depend on others to make you feel worthy, the more powerful you become. People who do not understand you may question your choices. They may say you have changed as if growth were a betrayal. But change is the language of life, and only those afraid of evolution cling to comfort. You cannot stop your becoming just to keep others content. Your journey is your own, carved by your courage and watered by your resilience. The moment you realize that understanding is not required for respect, you take back your power. The world does not need to understand you to benefit from your light. There is a sacred beauty in walking a path that others cannot see. You learn that solitude is not loneliness but strength in its purest form. The voice of your own spirit becomes your teacher, and its wisdom guides you far more clearly than any opinion ever could. You start to live not to be seen, but to see clearly yourself. You speak not to be agreed with, but because truth must find its way into the world through your words. You love not to be loved in return, but because love itself is your nature. You begin to move differently. Your head high, your steps sure, your heart open. You stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop apologizing for your light. You stop seeking permission to be free. And in that sacred moment, you discover what real power feels like: not dominance, not control, but peace. It is the kind of peace that sits quietly in your chest and whispers, you no longer need them to see you. You already see yourself. The sun does not ask permission to rise, and yet it graces the world with warmth each morning. The river does not seek applause as it carves its path through stone. It simply flows because that is its nature. In the same way, you were born to shine, to move, to create, to love, and to live, not for recognition, but because it is your divine right to express the fullness of who you are. When you spend your life asking others if it is all right to be yourself, you rob your own spirit of its natural rhythm. The approval of the world is a fragile thing, but the confidence that comes from within is unbreakable. Too many people wait for a nod before they bloom, as if life's permission slip comes from someone else's opinion. But the truth is, no one can authorize your becoming. The world did not give you your purpose, and it cannot take it away. The same power that fuels the ocean tides and the blooming of flowers flows within you. You were created by divine design, sculpted by the same hands that shaped the mountains and stars. To doubt your worth because someone else cannot see it is to question the artistry of creation itself. Caring less about what others think does not mean hardening your heart or withdrawing from love. It means refusing to shrink yourself for comfort's sake. It means speaking with honesty, even when your voice quivers. It means showing compassion without surrendering your boundaries. The world often confuses kindness with compliance, but true kindness is strong. It honors both self and others. You can care deeply about people without allowing their opinions to steer your life. Loving them does not mean letting them define you. When you stop waiting for acceptance, you begin to live in authenticity. You no longer filter your dreams to make them digestible. You no longer wear masks to make others comfortable. You start to move through life with a quiet grace, no longer begging for a seat at tables where your soul is not welcome. You learn to build your own table, carve your own chair, and invite those whose hearts recognize your truth. You stop chasing belonging and realize that belonging was within you all along. Freedom comes the moment you understand that you are not responsible for how others perceive your light. Some will call it too bright, others will say it is not enough. But the sun never dims to soothe the eyes of the fearful. You were not sent here to fit into the world's expectations. You were sent to expand them. Stand tall in that truth. Walk as though your footsteps are sacred, for they are. When you stop asking permission to be yourself, you begin to live not as a reflection of others' desires, but as a mirror of divine intention. When you stop asking the world for permission to exist in your fullness, something extraordinary happens inside you. You begin to breathe deeper. You begin to walk taller. You begin to feel lighter, not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because you no longer carry the weight of other people's expectations on your back. The truth is, no amount of approval will ever be enough for a person who has not learned to approve of themselves. You could gather all the applause in the world, and still, your soul would hunger for something more genuine: self-acceptance. To stop caring about what others think does not mean you stop caring about people. It simply means you stop trading your peace for their comfort. There is a way to love without losing yourself. You can be gentle and still be firm. You can be giving and still have boundaries. You can be compassionate without allowing others to take from your spirit what was never theirs to own. The art of compassion does not ask you to conform. It asks you to understand, to forgive, to hold empathy in one hand and self-respect in the other. Many people believe that to be good, you must be agreeable. But goodness that bends until it breaks is no goodness at all. True love, whether for others or yourself, cannot exist without truth. You will find that when you begin to honor your truth, some people will grow silent around you. They were comfortable with the version of you that sought their approval. The stronger you become, the more your strength exposes their own insecurities. And that is not your burden to bear. You are not responsible for shrinking your light so others feel safe in the dark. Those who are meant to walk beside you will not be intimidated by your growth. They will be inspired by it. Those who are meant to love you will not try to mold you. They will celebrate you exactly as you are. This kind of living takes courage. It takes a brave heart to stand in authenticity when the world rewards imitation. But every step you take in truth strengthens your spirit. Every no spoken from integrity adds to your peace. Every time you choose stillness over approval, you honor your soul's wisdom. And as that wisdom grows louder, you begin to see how much energy you once wasted trying to be understood. You realize that your peace has been waiting for you all along, waiting for you to stop performing, to stop pretending, to stop seeking permission to be free. So you learn to move through the world with compassion and conviction. You smile, but you no longer explain. You care, but you no longer compromise your truth. You love deeply, but never at the cost of your identity. You finally understand that the greatest act of love you can offer this world is to show up as your true self, unafraid, unfiltered, and unapologetically whole. There is a voice within you that has been whispering since the day you were born. It is soft, steady, and wise. It knows who you are and who you are meant to become. But as you grow, the noise of the world grows louder, drowning out that sacred sound. People tell you what to value, how to behave, what success should look like, and who you must be to deserve love. Slowly, you begin to mistake their voices for your own. You begin to believe that the truth lies outside of you, in the opinions and approval of others. Yet the soul never shouts. It waits patiently, whispering beneath the noise, reminding you that you already have all you need to be whole. Listening to your inner voice is not an act of rebellion. It is an act of remembrance. It is remembering that before the world told you who to be, you already knew. That voice is not loud or boastful. It speaks in intuition, in feeling, in the quiet certainty that something is right for you even when no one else understands it. But to hear it clearly, you must first learn to be still. Stillness is not the absence of movement, it is the presence of awareness. When you sit in silence, you begin to hear the truth beneath the noise. You begin to hear your name as your spirit calls it, not the name the world gives you, but the one that holds your purpose. The power of that inner voice lies in its honesty. It does not flatter you or deceive you with comfort. It tells you when something doesn't fit, even when your mind wants to stay. It guides you toward growth, even when your fear clings to the familiar. It reminds you that your worth is not measured by how many people approve of you, but by how faithfully you honor your truth. When you follow that voice, life does not become easier, but it becomes real. You may lose people, but you will find yourself. You may stumble, but your steps will be your own. Every great act of courage begins with listening to that whisper within. It is what guides artists to create what has never been seen, leaders to speak what has never been said, and dreamers to chase what has never been done. Those who change the world are not those who listen to the loudest voices, but those who trust the quietest one, their own. The inner voice is not concerned with the noise of judgment or the shadows of doubt. It knows that truth cannot be debated, it can only be lived. So when the world grows noisy and opinions rise like waves around you, return to the calm within. Sit quietly with yourself, listen. Trust what you hear, even if it leads you away from the crowd. For the one who listens to their soul never walks alone, they walk with the divine. When you begin to walk in purpose, the opinions of others become faint echoes fading behind you. Purpose gives you direction when the world tries to pull you in 1,000 different ways. It steadies your steps when others question your path. It fills your heart with a quiet certainty that you are where you belong, even when the crowd does not understand. Purpose is not something you find in the noise of approval. It is something you uncover in the silence of self-awareness. It is born in moments when you stop asking, "Who do they want me to be?" and begin asking, "What was I created to do?" Every person who has ever left a mark on this earth learned to walk with purpose. They were not led by comfort or applause. They were led by something deeper, something eternal. When you are guided by purpose, you stop measuring your worth by how many people agree with you. You stop chasing validation because you realize that alignment with your calling is worth more than anyone's praise. Your purpose becomes your compass, and though others may not understand the direction you're heading, you no longer need them to. The path of purpose is not always bright and smooth. Sometimes it wins through valleys of solitude and climbs mountains of doubt. There will be moments when you question yourself, when the silence feels heavy and the road seems lonely. But purpose is the fire that keeps you warm in that solitude. It is the voice that says, "Keep going." When the world goes quiet, it teaches you to find joy not in being seen, but in knowing that what you do matters, even if no one notices right away. As you grow in purpose, you begin to see that every experience, every failure, every heartbreak, every detour was preparing you for your calling. The opinions that once bound you lose their grip. The need to please fades, replaced by the desire to contribute, to serve, to live truthfully. You no longer move to impress others, you move to express the fullness of your being. You begin to understand that peace is not found in acceptance from others, but in acceptance of yourself. Walking in purpose does not mean you no longer care about people. It means you care enough to be real with them. It means your words, your actions, your choices come from truth, not fear. It means your presence becomes a light, steady and constant, shining without apology. When you walk with purpose, your steps create ripples, quietly touching lives you may never see, inspiring hearts you may never meet. So walk boldly, walk humbly, walk with the assurance that your life has meaning beyond anyone's judgment. When you live by purpose, not approval, the noise of the world fades and the voice of destiny grows clear. You no longer follow the crowd, you follow the calling. So, my dear brothers and sisters, remember this. Life is far too brief and sacred to spend it dancing to the rhythm of other people's opinions. You were not sent here to be a reflection of their expectations, but a revelation of your own divine light. The world will always have something to say, but you do not have to listen. Walk in your truth, speak with courage, and live with love that flows from within. When you honor who you truly are, you give others permission to do the same. And that, my dear, is how freedom becomes contagious.